Castro's up, ball's in the dirt, and Nomar Mazara is wandering off base like a moron. Couldn't believe it. You should have seen it.
¿Qué esto? ¿Qué esto? Mira, yo no lo entiendo. Hay veces que yo no entiendo cómo los Tigres hacen eso. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa con Marza? ¿Qué coño tu puta madre me parió?
Where's Rogelio?
Where is Rogelio?
Rogelio. Y soy el Tigre. Soy Tigre, mira.
Soy El Tigre. I am El Tigre? I am the Tiger?
Sí.
I know a little bit of Spanish.
Are you the president of the Mazara fan club?
No, mira, él no sirve. Mira. La cosa es, los Tigres están jugando bueno. Y yo no sé qué está pasando lo mismo que ahora está jugando Houston y Houston necesita ganar con Houston y no está haciendo eso ahora mismo. Yo no lo entiendo.
Do you have any idea what's going on here? My wife told me about Zoom bombing a while back. Some people Zoom bombed the city council meeting, and is that what's happening here?
I think we're in a Jack Black movie.
Eso posible.
A Jack Black movie.
This is a Jack Black movie all of a sudden.
You know, I never did see. What was that? Nacho Libre?
Yeah.
I never did see that.
¿Quién? Who? What? ¿Quién?
Jack Black? I don't know. What is Jack Black in Spanish? What is Jack?
Mira.
I guess you still say Jack Black.
Baseball, ¿no?
Baseball. Oh, yeah.
Sí.
Jack White is the opposite of Jack Black. He likes baseball. He was doing those war sticks or whatever with Ian Kinsler. He's from Detroit.
Yeah, sí. Eso está bueno. Me encanta eso. Me encanta béisbol. Pero, mira, yo no sé dónde está Rogelio. Voy a buscar a Rogelio un momentico, pero es que nada más que tengo un genio que está pasando con los Tigres ahí.
I don't know what it is, but I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mira,
I know.
Espera. Voy a coger Rogelio. Ahora vengo. Espera.
What? All right. Well,
I will drink to that.
That works for me. I don't know. It's been an interesting day of baseball. I'll say that. I don't really know what's happening. The Tigers are getting beat up by the Astros. I missed most of the early happenings.
That's crazy. What happened? Hey, what's going on, guys? What happened?
Were you running an errand or something? Did you just get here?
I just got here. What happened? How did the show start without me? It's crazy.
I don't know. There was some stream bombing going on from an angry.
We got stream bomb, really?
Angry luchador, I guess is what you'd say.
It was Nacho Libre 2. It was on the screen here.
My mask is missing, so somebody must have came in here and took my mask.
I can't speak Spanish very well at all. I've got like 2 years of college Spanish, 1 year of college Spanish, and 2 years of high school Spanish. And this fellow was speaking a little bit too fast for me, but it seemed like he was very upset.
Well, it wasn't Nomar Mazara because he would have got caught.
Oh.
Well, hopefully we catch that gentleman stream bombing us, and that's just ridiculous. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable that what happened. So.
Way out of line.
Yeah, way out of line. And so, yeah, I don't know. I literally went outside for a minute, come back, and I see the streams up, and my mask is missing, and it's chaos right now. And unfortunately, maybe we'll see him again. I don't know. I guess he was inspired by Sean Belizean from the Woodward Sports Network and the whole Habs man guy. So maybe, I don't know. It's crazy. So the Canadians, I think, are about to go to the Stanley Cup. So that's possibly why. But welcome to Tigers SRD here at MotorCityBengals.com and the Tiger Mining Report. I am Rogelio Castillo alongside Ms. Chris Brown and Huper. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and Stitcher and Google Play. And the Tigers right now, actually, Yuriel Gonzalez just hit a home run for Toledo, which is their third of the game, I believe. Yep. You had Zach Short lead off with a home run, and the Rodriguez also hit a home run. So more power in Toledo. Against the Cardinals' second best prospect, lefty.
Wow.
Got the guy's name. Just drawing a blank right now. Chris, who's ever pitching for Memphis is pretty good in terms of prospect rankings. But
pitching in Memphis.
Down in Memphis.
I'm pitching in Memphis. Let's see who was pitching for Memphis. This was Matthew Liberatore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louis
Okay.
Liberatore. Yeah,
I did not realize he was already in AAA. You know, remember he was a first rounder from the Rays. High school friends. I remember watching him take on Nolan Gorman in a big high school matchup. Geez, just 3 years ago, right?
Yep.
2 years ago? 3 years ago. Same year as Casey Mize.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were he was in the Rosarina trade.
Yeah, and it was one of those situations. I remember we heard several different reasons because he was considered like a top 10 talent, and there were several different rumors about why he ended up falling to like 19th or whatever, where the Rays took him. Including one story I heard was his agent was a real novice and overplayed his or her hand. I don't know who, but they got him. Yeah, they got him from a Rosarena or for a Rosarena in that deal. It's sort of the thing where the Rays took him just because it was so much of a value.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't particularly like his pitch mix or the way, like the characteristics of his fastball, so they were able to trade him.
And he was injured too, right? He had some arm issues as well.
I don't remember him getting injured.
Not sure.
I think. I mean, maybe. I think it was just they didn't particularly like the characteristics in his pitches and used him as a trade chip, as the Rays often do. They're pretty smart about baseball stuff like that. So, but that's cool. Yeah, it's nice to see them beating up on him. I'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. I will definitely take that. What are you doing? Why are you trying to light?
Are you guys live?
Yes.
Oh, well, I wanted to tell you.
What? Excuse me a moment.
Oh, show meeting. Anyway, you
live radio. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how have you been?
Hey, can't complain.
We never really get to just sit here and chat.
No, can't complain. My son's birthday today. He turned 11.
Oh, happy birthday to 11-year-old son. That's 11.
Yep. His name is Dashel.
Dashel.
Yep, Dash for short.
Named for the former senator?
No. There was a mystery writer named Dashiell Hammett.
Interesting.
He wrote
Is that a fake name?
Falcon.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he wrote the Maltese Falcon?
Yes.
Is that one of the great MacGuffins of all time, or what do you call them?
Yeah, well, it was a Humphrey Bogart movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whoever thought in a million years we'd bring up the Maltese Falcon on this podcast. So the Tigers, speaking of the Cardinals, by the way, the Tigers swept the Cardinals in a 2-game series as the bullpen continues to form very well in these last stretch of games. They, in the middle of, by the way, for a fun fact, in the month of June, they have an ERA of 4.90 and a xFIP of 4.73. So they're right in the middle of the pack, 16th overall. Tonight doesn't look too well for Jose Arena, who might be end up going to the bullpen. But again, it's the pitching is so thin right now. And Dan Dickerson was just talking about this on the broadcast. Who are you going to call up? I mean, right now, you Drew Hutchison. I mean, Willie Peralta. I mean, Brewers fans warned us about Willie Peralta. We had one of the fan side sites warn about us. Yeah. But I'll start with you, Chris. I mean, just right now, Homer Bailey signed a minor league deal with Oakland. I just found that. I didn't even know he signed a minor league deal, but he's going to be starting in AAA Vegas. That would have been a decent move. I mean, I know he's 35 and he's not what he used to be, but that's something.
Yeah, no, I imagine we'll see a lot more of that as the months go on. Actually, one of the questions we got today was like, who's going to be pitching in September? Yeah, I don't know who else is out there. It wouldn't shock me if Edwin Jackson reappears somewhere. I think he's still only like 37, despite having been pitching for 20 years and been on 15 different teams. Yeah, it's going to be a scramble for everybody. That's the thing. Like Jose Arena, he's been really on a bad streak here the last several outings. He had those great starts earlier in the year, a stretch of them, 4 or 5, 7-inning starts in a row, and they desperately need that guy to come back. I don't know if he will. I mean, we know he's he was pitching above his head, but I also don't think he's quite this bad, and they just need innings from him. So I don't know. I mean, you mentioned Hutchison. I think we'll probably see Logan Shore at some point. We might they're just gonna all hands on deck. Really, I mean, they're gonna have to. They're going to have to find innings somewhere, and that right down, they're down 3 of the starters that they began the year with, so it's tough.
I think you're going to probably end up at some point. I mean, once the main guys are at their innings limit or where their workload where they want to stop, probably going to see a lot of bullpen days, some openers. They might have to dip down into AA if anybody's got a decent run going, like Paul Richon or. I'm trying to think of the other guy, Elvis.
Yeah, Elvin Rodriguez.
Elvin, yeah. One of those, they might have to take some starts and take their lumps. because I was reading Peter Gammon said something today. He was talking to an NL East GM. There's already teams calling about that guy's AAA depth for deals, and he's holding everybody because all his guys are getting hurt. And this is kind of the fall off from the quarantine season, from the COVID season, with all the injuries. The pitching depth is just getting taxed everywhere. This is not Detroit's only problem. So I see a lot of bullpen days, a lot of living with the Hutchinsons of the world. Bartolo Colon is always in midseason form shape.
Yeah, he's in Mexico, I believe. He's pitching in Mexico right now. Yeah.
I think we're probably going to see a lot of all over baseball. I think we're going to see a lot of 13-9 baseball games come August.
Yeah, and the thing is too, something that worth mentioning too about the lack of depth and what have you, even across the league. It's worth mentioning that tonight in the Double-A start for Jesus Rodriguez in the first inning, they had a pitcher conference, and they were wondering because he seemed like everything was fine, but they were making sure he was okay. So even Erie right now, Erie's not getting a lot of production from their starters at all, and they've had some bullpen starts. And that is concerning, considering you look down at West Michigan, they basically Erie has raided West Michigan for all the starting pitching. So there's not much left in the cupboard right now. And I mean, you're going to see the value of Rick Porcello, who's sitting there waiting, just counting the money and just like, hey, I'm ready. Give me some money. And you also have guys who are playing for the Olympics right now too. So that's also going to throw stuff off the hopper a little bit in terms of who's available, who's not, because I know that the Olympics are in July, Tokyo, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you have Olympic qualifying right now, and you have also guys who are playing elsewhere, you're playing overseas, and so that plays a factor. But I mean, those guys will come up if they have to, but it's still, I mean, right now by the way, Akil Baltu, 3 for 3.
What did he just do?
He had a double.
Another double?
Yep. Just hit a second double. He's got 3 of the Tigers' 5 hits.
Man, how good is Al Avila for unearthing Akil Baltu?
You know what? I was thinking there must have been somebody who was kind of pounding the table for him in the Rule 5. There must have been one person, and I would love to know who that person is. Yeah. And I've got this whole theory now about this is a tangent, and I may send an email to Kevin Goldstein for his podcast to see what he thinks. But there's we've had this years and years, decades of this kind of minor league system where we develop guys and they go up a step once we think they're ready, and they go up another step. We see what Baду is doing this year, jumping 2 levels, barely playing in high A. And that it's something that's not common by any means. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder if there's a small phylum of players who can do that. Like, you push a guy up to see if he can develop. It almost feels like you're wasting time to see if he can develop. Hey, he can develop a Double-A. Now he's up at Triple-A. Can he develop here? Just go up to the majors, just sink or swim, In particular, I'm thinking, well, obviously it's not going to work for everybody, and you need a certain baseline of skills to succeed. Yeah. But I'm thinking about guys like Badu who show very early on a great approach at the plate.
Yep.
Like, think Juan Soto. He was 19 and in the majors because he has a terrific eye, and that sort of thing is just kind of innate. And I'm wondering if we're just wasting our time with a lot of these young guys, but by going step by step, when somebody like that, you just put them up and let them see if they can figure it out. But I don't know. I mean, maybe there's just not that many of those players.
No, and I think it's one of those things where I haven't. We're talking about this the other day, Chris. Your rants got you quite a bit of Twitter pub, and rightfully so. And he's the first Tigers rookie to have a kind of WRC plus in the same range since Travis Fryman in 1990. 1990. Think about that for a second. Think about all the Tigers high draft picks they've had since then and have not got that kind of production. I mean, I'm working on a piece right now. I'm working on a YouTube series about Scott Moore that's going to be coming out, and the amount of research I'm coming through, it's like, ugh.
Well, yeah, and I tweeted out, and it's funny, man. I don't know what happened over the last few years, but whenever I put out like a really kind of milquetoast tweet, it's like I get like 500 likes for some reason. I'm like, hey, the Tigers are playing pretty well right now. Like, bing, 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 bing. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I said like, hey, Akil Badu's not getting enough national credit, and that was, that was right after somebody at the Fangraphs had written an article about him, so it's not necessarily fair to say. But yeah, I mean, he's like a top 50 hitter in baseball right now. And again, it's as a kid who didn't play in AA or AAA. It's just a remarkable story. And like you said, his WRC plus is like 132. I bet you it's like 135 after tonight.
Sure.
And we know, it probably won't last like this. His BABIP is getting close to 400 now. But the best, I went back 20 years in a different tweet to look at the best first seasons from Rule 5 picks ever, and it was Josh Hamilton at 130. And that was a very special case because obviously he was the former number 1 overall pick. He was kind of like the natural, and right, he was like 27 at the time. The next best was like 113, and it was Odubel Herrera or somebody like that. And so Baddoo might shatter the modern record for performance by a Rule 5 pick. And yeah, as you said, like the best performance by any Tigers offensive rookie in 30 years. So like I said, I think he just deserves more national pub. Of course, probably once he gets that, everything will fall apart. But Baddoo. Yes, indeed.
Well, if they keep protecting him and he doesn't face a lot of lefties and he always has the platoon advantage, that's going to help him a lot. But I think getting back to what you said originally, I was going to talk about the approach too. That's definitely. I think he had. Maybe they knew this. He had kind of a broad set of skills. He had a good approach. He had a dose of power. He has some speed. He can play a defensive position. Maybe that's the kind of guy that you can just move ahead because there's a breadth to what he does. There's not just one thing that the league can take away from him and then he's useless. So.
Yeah, and I don't know. I probably oversimplified it because you can find like Nick Quintana. I think has got like a 16% walk rate in low A right now. Mm-hmm. He's also hitting like 140. It's like you're not going to bring that guy up. He's walking because those guys can't throw strikes. You have to kind of see it in action, I would think. But yeah, I don't know. And you made a great point, Yoop, about Hinch is really doing a fantastic job of putting Baddoo in situations where he can succeed. He's struggled against lefties, although he did get a nice hit off a lefty, I think Genesis Cabrera just the other day against the Cardinals. Yeah. But he struggled against lefties, so he doesn't see a lot of lefties. And I don't know, it's just a good job all around. I think maybe in September or August even, we'll start seeing him play every day, even against lefties, and that may drag the WRC plus down eventually, the offensive performance overall. But he's going to need to see that event at some point. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard not to be pleased with his performance this year.
Yeah, he's going to get his reps in and just get better lefties. So I mean, that's basically what it is. And before we get to the or inside the numbers, I just wanted to talk a little bit MLB news a little bit. What's this whole sticky situation and people, Max Scherzer taking off his pants, Sergio Romo, all sorts of craziness. And to me, it's just kind of making the league look foolish. And then Rob Manfred was basically saying, "Oh, everything's fine." I'm sorry, what? Did you have a bunch of yes men tell you that? I mean, really, what game were you watching? Because how is he going to sit there and tell us, "Oh yeah, it's going great"? I mean, it's just. I mean, the umpires. You're giving guys like Country Joe West and Angel Hernandez more fodder than they have ever had before. You think they screw with him then? They're going to screw with him even more now. I mean, changing gloves with a Casey Meising, ridiculous. The hat thing, it's absurd to me. You want the game to speed up, but then you do all these things to make the game slow down. Which one is it? Doesn't make any sense.
They went out of their way here to create a scandal where there wasn't really a scandal. They weren't enforcing a rule for all these years. Everybody knew it. Nobody was really that mad about it. But they've made it into this big hubbub over, essentially nothing. I think what the big problem is, they've made it such a spectacle, such an undignified spectacle that they have to do a mini strip search on the foul line. If they would just get somebody in the dugout that could do it in the hallway, problem goes away. It doesn't become this big thing. It's just something that happens in the runway up to the dugout. You get checked, it's over. And because I think the whole thing was, to get the sticky substance out and get the spin rates down and help people hit the ball again, that's all fine. But to drop it on everybody's head here in June without a real good plan in place that's probably thought of all the permutations of things that could go wrong, that was that was really foolish. I mean, this is something they could have waited a while longer and figured out what to do. Because the baseball season, there's problems, but it was going along fine. And they've created this big hubbub over something that could have been avoided.
Nobody trips over their own phallus as frequently and hilariously as baseball. Like they just never do anything right. They change the ball and it's a disaster. They're suddenly sticky stuff in the middle of the season. It's a debacle. They're changing the extra inning rules, 7-inning doubleheaders. Everything they do ends up being negative in the public eye somehow. I don't know how. They're just remarkable at it. It's like they're as bad as the NCAA at this point.
If not worse. I mean, you have.
At least they pay their players.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're
in the
trying
majors.
Yeah, they're trying. Yeah, and they're trying to even do that right now. You have all the stories about what's going on in the minors, and that's even more ridiculous. But seriously, might as well start playing this music every time like they're about to do something. Like it's.
And I don't blame Scherzer for losing his mind the other night. It was actually kind of comical. It was like he was ready to strangle people, man.
Yeah.
And Girardi was messing with him, and he was giving it back to him, and it would have been fun to see those two square off.
Honestly, what is Joe Girardi thinking? Like, if there's any pitcher in baseball that you don't want to get pissed off, not because he's going to attack you, but because he's going to use it to go insane on the mound, it's Max Scherzer. I don't know what that was all about. Like, I don't think you can rattle Max Scherzer. It just makes him angrier and want to destroy you and eat the world. But maybe I'm wrong. I didn't see what he did after that.
Oh, if Max fires a no-hitter at the Phillies this year, I won't be shocked.
Yeah.
No, what's funny is Girardi, who by the way had Michael Peña have the stuff on his neck. Somebody posted out on Twitter. It's like, oh yeah, like of course. I mean, it's same dude, but I guess it's different when you're playing against somebody like that, and it's the whole thing is just absurd, and it's just like some sort of really bad TV soap opera crap that no one wants to partake in. And in baseball, the one thing about baseball that just doesn't, even with the All-Star jerseys today, what are they getting? Like, did they ask like 3 people? Do they believe in market research? Do they, you know what I mean? Like, no, seriously, like, do they look at stuff and go, oh yeah, that's fine. Like 3 people in a room that are trusted. I mean, look at Max. I don't want to mess with that. Look at those eyes. Screw that, man. No way. He's staring at me like that. I mean, look at this. Look at all these faces. Look at that right there. That's Mad Max at his finest right here. Look at this. And the headline is Max Scherzer the most bat-ass crazy pitcher ever? Yeah, he's up there.
He might
be. Yeah, he is. I'm not going to mess with that. But, here we are dragging about this instead of talking about the game and stories like Ohtani doing so well, and we're talking about Akil Baldu. Instead we're talking about the umpires and all this, unnecessary posturing bull crap.
And, as an umpire myself, obviously an amateur umpire, but I feel bad, the umpires kind of been thrown into this. You can say Joe West started it when he enforced the rule a few weeks ago, but overall, I think most of these umpires, they probably want no part of looking at someone's belt every inning, that kind of thing. They didn't sign up for that. It's just been very poorly implemented. And I'll say it again, simple fix, do it in the dugout. Have somebody in the dugout who's checking the pitchers. Boom, done. Out of everybody's sight. It's over.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. It's a simple fix, but they're making it in a public spectacle that doesn't need to. And they're not going to do it because I think to them it brings them possibly clicks on social media. I really don't know. There's no logic behind it that to me is sound, but again, what do I know? I don't want to sound like I'm being like back in my day kind of thing, but I mean, there's just so much. Yeah, we'll get to that. But anyway.
It's time for Rogelio and Chris to go inside the numbers.
All right, it's time for Inside the Numbers. And Uper, what is your number this week?
Well, I started looking at a series of numbers today. I was looking at some draft stuff, and I was looking at Baseball America's top, whatever it is, top 250, top 500, whatever it is. I was looking at the top 50, and then I was looking at the pitchers in particular, and I noticed that they have their Rapsodo scores, the RAP scores, for most of the pitchers, not all. So I was really interested just to take a look because evidently I tried to research it, and then I caught a minute of their podcast. It's all set up on the 2080 scale to mimic it. So their Rapsodo score, and those who don't know what the Rapsodo score is, it's checking their spin rates, but their spin efficiency, and ranking them via, how often they throw their pitches out of the same, the tunneling effect. I'm sure Jim Price would call it the keyhole, So, and just ranking pitchers with that and seeing, who's the most effective with their spin rates. And for the upcoming draft, can you two guess with the highest RAP score on Baseball America's list? Pitcher.
So which pitcher has the highest rep score?
It's somebody. I'll give you. It's somebody who's in the top 20.
I would guess Sam Bachman.
Ooh, you nailed it. Yes, you got a 52.
Well, that's what they say. He's got probably the best pure stuff.
The two best pitches in the draft is what they're saying. Fastball and slider, both a 70.
Jeez.
Rankings. Number 2 was Kumar Rocker. 58.
Oh, there you go. Interesting.
Chance Burns was 56. Leiter's at a 53. And Jackson Jobe is at 49.
Oh, no. Future Tiger Jackson Jobe.
Yeah, exactly.
Below average.
Not going to happen. You know what? If they pick Jackson Jobe,
I think it's a lot more possible than people are realizing. I mean, I think part of the problem is you've got all these rumors because the Tigers have been everywhere. It's the draft is a month later and nobody knows what to do, so they're going everywhere and being seen everywhere. So that like I said in our private chat, just from reading around, the Tigers have been spotted at Jobe's outings. They've been spotted down watching Vanderbilt play. They've been spotted. Who else were they spotted with? A lot with Meyer. They had private workouts with Brady House. I think what would shock me, I guess, is if Leiter is on the board and they still take Jobe. But I don't think, in my head, I assume it's going to be like Meyer, Leiter, and then they're picking between Jobe and House. And I think they might go with Jobe.
Well, Leiter, everybody is really saying that Leiter is pricing himself very high because he's a draft eligible sophomore. He could possibly go back, I suppose. I doubt he would. But he wants number 1 money. He wants to get to the Red Sox at number 4, supposedly. I mean, that's all this chatter you hear. So he's trying to price himself down to the Red Sox. We'll have to see.
And that's what's interesting, because if the Tigers really liked Leiter, they have the second biggest bonus pool. They can give him whatever he wants.
right?
Yeah.
But if they're really trying to be cute and save money for second and third round picks or second, comp round and second round picks, then maybe they won't. But I don't know. We'll see. It's only 2.5 weeks away.
Well, I'm a Kumar Rocker guy. I was kind of fun to see his RAP score was significantly higher than Leiter and Jobe. Not that you draft on RAP score, Rapsodo score. Okay, and I know that, but Kumar Rocker is a horse. I mean, you look at that's the guy you want on your side in a bar fight. I like that over the little wispy skinny guy. And Rocker's performed on the highest level in college and performed extremely well. I don't know. I don't understand how he's kind of gone backwards a little bit into the bottom half of the top 10. And if Detroit took him, made a good deal there, and spent more money on the next 2 or 3 picks, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's sort of this kind of over-analysis groupthink. But everybody who sees Rocker, or at least all the chatter now is that, they're worried about his ability to get swings and misses with the fastball in the zone, and same with the breaking ball. They think he has to throw the fastball above the zone and the breaking ball outside to get swings and misses. I think that's, you're kind of nitpicking there. I agree with you that he's a horse. I think somebody's going to get a pretty good pitcher. I don't know. There's some people worried that he's a reliever. He's had some, even going back to when he was in high school, he had some issues with his fastball getting squared up a bit. I think that happened in the Vanderbilt's first game against, who were they playing 2 days ago?
Oh,
3 days ago.
NC State.
Yeah. NC State, yeah. And then, boy, what a rousing comeback against Stanford last night.
It was Arizona. Arizona got to him.
Arizona, who just lost their head coach to LSU.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that NC State where NC won 1-0. That was a lighter pitch, and that was that was a really good game to watch. That was one of the first games I actually stuck around and watched the whole thing for. And the for me, before we get to yours, Chris, I just want the best available player that can impact the Tigers right away. As cliche as that sounds, but as simple as it sounds, the Tigers right now, you look at it across the board, I'd rather them go with a pitcher than a hitter. Because if you look at Spencer Torkelson's progress, Riley Green struck out twice tonight, but again, that's against the lefty, whatever.
He missed a couple games. So
yeah, he's been sick. He's been under the weather. Dingler's off to a good start. And you have Andre Lipsius, who's also doing pretty well. You have other you have some hitters in your system right now, and the Tigers do not have any pitching. They don't. I mean, it's simple as that. You can tell me all. You can try to sell me all day on Brandon White, and Brandon White's doing really well for West Michigan. That's great and all, but until they get to Erie or they can be impactful, you look at Mark Leiter Jr. right now in AAA Toledo. They don't have anybody, and so I think that if they can get somebody that can step up right away and come in within the next year or two, then that's what I think they should do. But again,
So,
we'll see.
Raj, if they were right now, if you could wave a magic wand and they could mimic the 2018 draft the Royals had with college pitching, where they got 5 in the first 3 rounds, is that what you would like to see? If they went like Jack Leiter or Andrew Abbott, that Mikulski from Fordham, and those first 3 picks were 3 solid college pitchers, you'd like that?
I like that, but with the caveat that the Tigers are going to spend a little bit to fill the holes, because the shortstop, like we mentioned, or Cody Saberhagen on The Athletic mentioned, Harold Castro's -6, and his collective Tigers are they're -15 defensive run saves as a shortstop right now, and they're 5 below the next closest. I forgot what it was on Twitter. It's ridiculous. So I mean, as long as they're spending a little bit of money, then yeah, do the Royals plan. I know that some of those Royal stars are not exactly working out right now, but give it time. You're building out your system, and they still got Bobby Wood Jr. and who's doing pretty well, who's considered a top 3 prospect. So as long as they do that, that's fine. If they do that. So, Chris, what's your inside number?
Oh, just 1 second. I'm getting video of Dylan Dingler's second triple of the night.
I already took care of it. Way ahead of you.
Never mind. Good work. I didn't see it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, that one put Erie up 8-7 in the night. Dylan Dingler, triples machine. Two triples from a catcher in one night. So, good work. I don't even have to do these videos anymore. Roger's just all over it. So my inside the number, as usual, I've cheated and picked 2. My inside the number is 6.4 and 66.2. So 6.4 is Matt Manning's swinging strike rate through 2 starts. That ranks 510th out of 518 players who have thrown at least 150 pitches this year. Obviously, that's a small sample size, but for reference, Jose Urena is at 8.1%. Kyle Funkhauser is at 9.9%, and every other Tigers pitcher is above 10%. So Manning 6.4. Fulmer leads the team at 14.8, and Skubal is second at 13.9. So basically double what Manning is doing. Everything I know about baseball, or I've learned about baseball in the last 15, 20 years, tells me Manning should be getting absolutely shelled, and yet he hasn't. His average exit velocity against so far is 91.9, which is in the bottom 10th percentile of baseball. The expected batting average on his slider is 402, and on his change, it's 474. And yet, like I said, the results in his first 2 outings have been great. Maybe it's because of that second number I mentioned, 66.2. That is the percentage of four-seam fastballs he's throwing. That's the highest of any pitcher, any starter in baseball. First out of 237 who have thrown at least 150 pitches. And the expected batting average on the four-seamer is just 265. So even though he's throwing it all the time, batters can't seem to square it up, at least through 2 starts, and maybe it's because of the spin rate, which is kind of the opposite of what we normally expect. His spin rate is 1960 RPMs. It's the 5th lowest among all starters this year.
Didn't something was like 1272 or something like that? It was some really.
I think he may have thrown 1, or it was probably getting confused with his changeup, which is also ultra low spin. But it's still it seems to have a similar effect, if not similar but different effect of the high spin guys, where the pitch is just not doing what batters expect. It's not going where they expect because it doesn't spin at all. And so, yeah, he's still getting kind of weaker contact on the fastball and throwing it all the time, and the results so far have been great. But as I said, like everything I've learned over the last few years tells me he's due for like 8 runs in 2/3 of an inning at some point. But so far so good. He's given them innings. They desperately need it, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, the stat that cracks me up was that he's the first Tiger to throw 5 innings and allow 2 runs or less since Clint Sadowski in 1996.
Wow.
And that's a guy who, I'm sorry, 1995, 1996. Clint Sagowski, rather. I just, one of those guys, like, they end up trading him to Houston for Damaselli the following season. So that was, that was Randy Smith's special. He was drafted in the 9th round by the Tigers in 1990, 1991 in that era. So that was the last person I expected that to happen to. So,
It's interesting. I was listening to the guy who owns Rapsodo, and just listening to him talking, I was doing some digging into it. They were talking about effective spin rate and how there are some guys, there's a subset of pitchers who have a lower spin rate, but the spin that they do have is extremely effective in getting movement to the baseball. Where there are some pitchers who have a lot of spin rate, but only 30% of it is effective spin rate. That's how they break it.
Right.
And they were saying that sometimes when there's less spin on some pitches, it fools the batter. It makes the pitch look like it's tumbling.
Like a knuckleball, similar to a knuckleball action.
Yeah. So, is there some of that with Manning? I don't know. I'm not well versed enough to say, but I would say overall, you're kind of right. Just the lack of strikeouts and the lack of swing and misses. There's going to be some bad luck that goes against him at some point, but that's okay. He's got to learn, I kind of like the curveball when he does throw it. It does not seem like a sweeper. It kind of goes down, and I think that will help eventually play to both right-handers and left-handers because it's not coming at either one. It's kind of going vertical. As long as you can keep getting better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting so far is that most of his primary breaking ball has, at least according to Savant, has been categorized as a slider.
Okay.
And it's kind of getting demolished so far. But yeah, he's thrown a handful of curves that are a little bit slower, and those haven't been hit as hard. So I don't know if I don't know what the deal is there, really. I mean, that used to be his primary secondary pitch, and it just doesn't look great so far. I thought his changeup actually looked much better than I expected.
Yeah, I thought so too.
At least a viable pitch. I wouldn't call it a plus or even average, but it was like, hey, that's a viable pitch. So I don't know, like maybe he'll make some progress here in the next few starts. I'm hoping for it.
Yeah, I hope that the curve gets a little better, and we still see a little what he's guiding it still a little bit too. So my inside number is from Jesse Rogers of ESPN, and he was doing articles on the how to save baseball and some of the things that were coming out in terms of just data that was interesting. The 0.14 triples per team per game is on pace to be the lowest ever in a full season. I mean, and not including 2020. And so far this season, 4% of plate appearances have ended in a double, the lowest mark since 1989. And there's few stolen bases per team per game, 0.45, than there's been in any season since the mound was lowered in 1969. So,
I believe it.
And again, to blame it on sticky substance is just absurd, I think. But just again,
I think it's velocity more than anything.
Yeah, velocity, and also again conditioning. You're talking about the last year and a half of just weird. Everything's been thrown off schedule. But again, I'm just saying this from an amateur point of view. I just think there's a lot more to it than just the sticky stuff. But I don't know. It's just putting a Band-Aid on a crap sandwich, or there's crap all over. No, there's you know what? Let me rephrase that. There's a crap wall, right? And then you just put a Band-Aid on it and going, oh, all right, that'll work. No, there's more. You gotta clean it. You gotta sanitize it. You gotta do a lot more to that wall than just put a little Band-Aid on it. And that's what they're doing with this, at least in my opinion. That's a bad analogy, and I apologize, folks, but I couldn't think of anything else.
I'm worried about this crap wall being load bearing. That's that's trouble. But
yeah.
Anyway.
I don't have a, I don't have a, I definitely deserve one of these.
Get off our show!
No, it's just it's a solid mixed metaphor. I like it. No, your overall point is right. Like, yeah, there's a lot going on here, and you can't blame it all on the sticky stuff or the stinky stuff.
The sticky icky. So
The good,
Oh, that's good.
the bad,
Oh, that's bad.
and the ugly.
all right, it's time for the good, the bad, the ugly this week. And Chris, go ahead and lead off the good, the bad, the ugly for us.
All right, my good is Luis Garcia, the kid pitching against the Tigers tonight. He's got a generic name, and he was really under the radar for a while, so it's kind of like I don't blame people for maybe not knowing who he is. but he signed with the Astros for $20,000 when he was 20 years old out of Venezuela, I believe. And that's really kind of one of the many smart things that Houston did was they, instead of, sticking to the 16-year-olds, they targeted some of these guys who are still out there trying when they're 20. Because, down in Venezuela and the Dominican, if you're 17, you're over the hill. But if you got a guy still grinding it out at 20, then you don't have to worry about the makeup at all. This is a guy who desperately wants to succeed. And sure enough, 4 years later, he's one of the better starters in baseball this year. As a matter of fact, by F-WAR, before tonight, he was tied for the third best pitcher over the last month, behind only Jacob deGrom and Kevin Gausman. What's interesting, he pitches backwards, I guess, by trade. His fastball is kind of average, but he's got 4 other pitches, and they're all pretty good. Yep. His slider, cutter, curve, and change have all been really strong this year. And he ranks 5th among all rookie pitchers in WAR. And like I said, it's just another example of this sort of smart stuff that Houston did over the last decade or so that continues to pay off for him.
He's really fun to watch. I'm not going to bore people with my fantasy, but he is on mine, so I've watched him a bit. He does a really funky Texas two-step with his windup, where he's all over the rubber. It's hilarious. But that's how he gets his timing. He probably throws off the timing of some hitters. And yeah, he throws a really cool mix of pitches. He's a fun guy to watch. I probably watched him pitch maybe 18, 19 innings so far. He's a good pitcher.
Yeah, and the Tigers have done a little bit of that, plumbing the depths for older guys. I think Angel De Jesus was a guy who was 18 or 19 when they signed him, and he's up in AAA now. He was pitching tonight, and it didn't look like it was going too great. But we know that Dave Littlefield really likes him, so take that for what it's worth. But
take that from the bank.
My bad, I wrote this before I looked at tonight's game, was Aaron Judge, which is, this is always relative, of course, but I was looking at stats over the last 2 weeks. And in that time, Aaron Judge was 9 for 47, so just 205 with 22 strikeouts, no home runs, and just 1 double. Of course, last I checked tonight, he was 3 for 3 with a home run and 2 walks. So nuts to that. Yeah, but like I said, otherwise he's been pretty good this year. He was 278 heading into the year or tonight. 15 home runs, career low strikeout rate of 27.7%. So just one of those weird bad stretches that you see from great players, and appears that he's hit his way out of it tonight. So much for that. My ugly is the Cleveland pitching staff. Particularly the starters. I thought the Tigers were in rough shape after losing Tehran and Boyd and Turnbull, but yikes, Cleveland. So they already lost Shane Bieber, who of course is one of the best pitchers in baseball. They lost Plesac because of the stupid jersey injury or whatever, and they just lost Aaron Savali. I don't know, Telly Savalas. I forgot how he pronounced his name. I think they said for 4 to 5 weeks with a finger injury. And I was looking at the other starters they've used this year have combined for a 7.31 ERA over 112 innings. Tristan McKenzie, one of their top prospects, is walking 1 out of every 5 batters, 20% walk rate. Logan Allen and Eli Morgan have given up 11 home runs in 27 innings, which is not ideal from starters. They're just 2.5 games back of the White Sox right now, and 2 back at Tampa for the wild card. And I know they grow pitchers in a lab down in Cleveland, but it's hard for me to see them getting through this and staying competitive without those top 3 arms.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the best job Terry Francona's ever done as a manager.
They could stay in the race if they had their pitching, because the White Sox have slowed down a little bit lately.
Yeah.
And the Twins are still a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Maybe they will. It's hard to picture without those big 3.
I agree.
We'll see.
All right. So, Uper, what is your good, bad, ugly?
Well, my good was we touched on all 3 of them so far today, which is fine. College World Series has been a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I enjoy college baseball. I try to keep fairly close track throughout the season, but then really kind of hone in here through the super regionals and to the end. A lot of great baseball. The NC State story is a lot of fun. They started the season. They were 1-8 in conference and 4-9 overall. And here they are with a really solid chance at winning the College World Series. And they got a fun little team. Little inside nugget for us Tiger draft wise. NC State first baseman Austin Muir, 400 on base percentage, no power, plays first base only, so not your typical guy. But evidently, someone who knows told me that Austin Muir was one of the 3 teams that called him last year prior to the 5-round draft was the Tigers. They didn't come together on a deal, and they didn't end up needing to take him. But if the Tigers are looking for a senior draft pick in rounds 6 to 8 to save some cash, remember Austin Muir from NC State.
I'm going to call my shot right now, Uper. They've been drafting out of the Carolinas the last couple of years. You look at Brian Packard. You looked at the Dethridge, who came from, I believe he came from NC State, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would be surprised. I would not. I'll you know what? Between the 9th and 12th round, he goes to the Tigers. Call my shot right now. It's
a leadoff hitting first baseman.
Yeah. That just sounds like non-conventional. And if the Tigers already talked to him before, they're going to draft him again because Tigers they always have that kind of history where they like somebody to go back to the well. So as you were.
All right. My bad was those all-star jerseys. I mean, I will just be short with it. Hideous. You know, I have my son, you know, he has one of the better jersey collections you'll ever see. He ain't getting one of those.
No.
So they can put those for sale all they want. No, those are ugly. I don't know who came up with that idea. They got the little Henley buttons, like a Henley t-shirt.
well, I got to ask you though, Uper, those jerseys, if you had to have the choice between 2 jerseys, that one or the turn back the clock ones from 1999, which one would you have to have?
Wow. Those turn back the clock ones, I think of the ones the Mariners wore and the Rockies, they were so bad.
Tigers one was they didn't even try. They're like, we'll just put some futuristic number to it. And then I saw the away one Dan Hasty posted on Twitter today. And that away one, I never seen it before. That looked like somebody designed it on a construction paper in kindergarten class, like just terrible. But you know what, gun to my head, I go with the 99 ones, the Seattle one of the Rockies one.
But I'll tell you, I did get my son the sweetest Brooklyn Dodgers Jackie Robinson jersey. That thing is primo. I'm very excited to get that. It didn't show up for his birthday. I was pissed, but it's supposed to be here tomorrow. But anyway,
we just got an update, by the way. Jimenez hit 97 in the game. Whoa, there you go.
Joe Jimenez?
Yeah.
Oh,
thank you, Kaiser.
Maybe he's
there. Yeah, nice.
He's getting limber now.
Which is really ironic because he comes up here shortly. But go ahead. You finish up.
Okay, good, bad. I'm going to go with the good, bad, and the funky, not the ugly, because this isn't ugly. I've been seeing a lot of, I was going to talk about the strip searches, but we already talked about that pretty hard. Jonathan Scope, having a wonderful month. Fantastic. Been the best hitter in baseball, almost, more or less, for the last, since end of May. Seeing a lot of people in many different places talking about they need to extend him. You know, I'm really reluctant to entertain that idea while he's in the middle of a 5-week heater, because, this is the best he's ever going to look. I'm more apt to look at his career and see the fact that he's been more or less a league average guy. That's what he is. And that's what you'd be signing. Yeah, I don't think the folks who are really enamored with him right now are looking at the home runs, and it's been fantastic again, but I would hold off on any 3-year deals on Jonathan Scope. And I'm sure the Tigers probably are thinking that too, because they've been able to sign him in the offseason for 1-year deals for 2 years in a row.
What were you going to say, Chris? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to discuss that too, because and there's a certain parallel to me with Nick Castellanos. There are two players who, when they get hot, look like Babe Ruth. They're hitting everything.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they swing at everything, and when they're not hot, they're kind of a disaster. So that's why I wasn't getting too overheated about Castellanos. For the last month, he's been just kind of average. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Jonathan Scope in 3,000 plus career plate appearances, so 3,000 plus career plate appearances over however many years, do you want to know what his WRC plus is?
What's that?
It's 100.
Yeah.
It's entirely average.
That's what he is.
Yeah. Now he was 114 last year and 125 this year. He's had a couple good seasons before, but he's a guy with a career 4% walk rate. He swings it, like I said, he swings at a lot of stuff. When he hits it, it's great. He hits really hard, but he's going to go through a slump later on. It's just the way it is. It's players like him do that.
That home run he hit yesterday, for instance, that pitch was buried inside. I mean, 99% of the time you follow that pitch off, if you hit it at all. But he's just in the middle of this heater where everything's magic. He put the barrel on it and knocked it out. I mean, but you can't live and die on that one,
Yeah. And I wrote a trade piece about it, and I was surprised on the no, you know what? Sorry, I wasn't surprised on some of the reaction I got from it, because at the end I put they don't trade him because it makes the Tigers a little more interesting come the end of the year. But then you already hear from Jim Bowden of the Athletic and everywhere else that they're going to trade him, and a lot of the fans were like, "Don't you're going to trade everybody? Why do you have to trade everybody?" Because that's how it works. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't yell at me because I came up with something. Your ideas are stupid. Okay. You know what? Fine. You can criticize the players I brought up, but knowing the Tigers' history, you come up with 3 players then. You go ahead and do the research on it. Tell me who they trade for. You tell me, huh? Get out of here. But he's not worth a top 100 prospect. The Cubs one I threw in there as a would be cool scenario, but it's not going to happen. Again, the reason I'm getting so animated about this is because the Tigers, unless they change their history, you go by what they know. And I'm tired of them saying, well, they always trade everybody. They don't always trade everybody. Candelario is still part of this team. Boyd's part of this team. They trade who they need to trade. Like, for example, Toronto is definitely going to be looking at Jose Cisnero in the next month or so because they got bullpen problems. And the Tigers are not in the position to keep everybody. And he's going to help the young kids. Okay, great. That's awesome. But then you get nothing out of them. I'd rather than take a flyer on a trade on a 4A guy or possibly somebody else to help out. And that's exactly what happened with Candelario and Paredes, who are part of your infield now. Get out of here with that nonsense. Anyway, I mean, if you don't want to trade him, that's fine. I'm in the opinion that if they can get something for him that's serviceable, because they have so much holes on this team right now. This team is thin. I don't understand how people do not see that. I don't. Paper thin. So
it's been disguised a little bit because they've been winning for a month. They're like 23 and 18 now in their last 41. So they've had a nice 40-game stretch. But the fact they're still 10 games under 500. And they are, as you say, paper thin. They have no depth. So it's been a bit of a mirage. I know people aren't going to like to hear that either, because it's been fun to watch. I've enjoyed watching the last.
I've enjoyed it too. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. But
it's not real. The 2018 Tigers were even better. They were 36 and 37, and they were playing relatively acceptable baseball. But that team sucked. And this team might be better because they might have a higher overall talent level because of the pitching. But odds are we're going to have some ugly days in August, and that's okay.
Yeah, and you're right. Exactly. It's okay. So go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was just looking. Oddly enough, Jonathan Scope's swing percentage is down 6% this year. He's a career 56% swing rate guy, which is since 2016 is the 9th highest in baseball. But this year it's only 50%. So maybe he's made a huge change to his profile at the age of 29. It seems unlikely, but maybe that explains why he's hitting everything right now.
I like it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so my good, bad, ugly for the evening is Tigers bullpen themed. So I created a entire theme of it, and I usually don't do that too often, but the Tigers pitching bullpen the last month has been pretty good, and so worth mentioning. The good is Gregory Soto. In the month of June, he's got a K per 9 of 11.25, and he's given up just 1 run over 2 hits, and has struck out 12 in 9 innings, and he's got a FIP of 1.41. His ERA is 0, but a FIP of 1.1, pretty damn good. Can't argue that results.
Yep.
The bad, which is ironic enough, is Joe Jimenez, who in this month, in 6 innings of work, is walking batters at a 15% clip, has got a FIP of 5.68. So, the 97-mile-an-hour fastballs are nice. Don't get me wrong. It's cool, but he still has some issues to work out, and hopefully he does. And, and then the ugly and kind of funky is the end of the Bo Burrows era. And he was a first-round draft pick in 2014, Chris, I want to say. Is that right? Yeah, 2014.
That's right, yep.
And that's the last of the draft class, and he's gone. And I don't want him to be known as the guy who threw up on the mound, because I feel like I've seen that on social media. Like, he puked on the mound. John Boy Media did a whole thing about it, and that's great. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of a dick move in my part. No, necessarily in their part. It's a dick move to keep highlighting that. That's not what he's known for. He's a guy who's lost. Well, he's lost a little bit of velocity, and he's a first rounder, has not worked out well for the Tigers, and a high school arm that did not work, and it was the last of the Dombrowski era, correct? Draft?
No, he was there for 2015, and then
no. I mean, it was Dombrowski that picked him, right? It was a Dombrowski draft.
Yeah, Dombrowski was also in charge of the draft in 2015.
That's right. Okay, all right.
But well, wait, was maybe he was the 2015 pick, because wasn't Derek Hill the 2014 pick?
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, you're right. He was the last of the Dombrowski picks.
But then he goes to Minnesota because Minnesota picks him up on waivers, which kind of surprised me, I'm not gonna lie, and becomes a top 30 prospect in MLB pipeline. I mean,
well,
yeah,
I mean, we did see him hit the mid-90s in that outing where he was thrown up. He never really got a consistent secondary pitch, and the velocity backed up, and there you go. Like you said, there wasn't much there. And yeah, that draft now, they have Bo Burrows, who they've designated for assignment and was picked up. Kristen Stewart was their other first-round pick, designated for assignment. Yeah. Tyler Alexander is their best pick from that draft at 1.5 WAR, pitched tonight. They used Drew Smith to get Mikey Machuk, their third-round pick. Matt Hall was in that draft. He's got a -2 WAR in his career. Kyle Dowdy, and that's it.
Yeah. Hey, they traded him for somebody.
Yeah, Kyle Dowdy. They got Willie Castro.
Willie Castro,
who has 2 errors tonight.
Well, hey, he's our guy.
Yeah, it's like I said, the infield is just a giant dumpster fire at this point, outside of maybe Candelario, but it's just been, I don't know. Hey, again, the Tiger, look, I will just say this: Tigers are playing over 500 since May. They've done a very good job. You can give them all the credit they deserve, and rightfully so. But we're gonna call it the way we see it too. I mean, it's Nomar Mazara. I don't like. I overheard some dude talking Spanish about Mazara earlier, and before I got in the room. And look, the thing about Nomar Mazara is that it's just a matter of time before he gets DFA'd. And a lot of fans I'm over it, because when you're swinging at knee-high fastballs and not hitting them, and you're known to be a guy that should be butchering that kind of stuff, there's a problem. And I mean, Derek Hill right now is in Lakeland. Victor Reyes is in Lakeland. They're rehabbing right now.
I saw Reyes came out after one at bat today.
Really?
So I don't know what may have happened there, but
yeah. But you have Derek Hill down there, who the Tiger fans want back up, rightfully so. Defensively, he's good. You got Daz Cameron right now, and honestly, I would not mind if Derek Hill comes back up and you DFA'd Mazara. Outfield might be a little wacky, but you know what? I roll with that. I'm cool with that. Cameron had a double earlier tonight.
Yeah, I think it's what Cameron is doing is kind of making Mazara superfluous. A few weeks there kind of made Jacoby Jones expendable. Now Haas has come back to earth pretty hard.
Yeah, he had a single tonight. The break is 0 for 15
slumps. But if Mazara is a left-handed hitter to try to get you power, and he's not hitting for power and not hitting, I mean, we'll talk about it more in a little bit.
Yeah. So, at any rate, but we got questions. Chris, what are the questions this week?
So we did get 2 questions, although they were kind of two-part questions, so I guess we can answer them. And we kind of already touched on this. Ed Miller, old buddy Ed Miller, said, who's going to pitch those innings in September, and who's next off the 40-man roster? What did I say we were just about to talk about in a minute?
Yeah.
I think Mazara is probably one of the key targets there on the 40-man roster to be going. I don't know, they get rid of him to bring up some pitching or add somebody to the 40-man roster, maybe Angel DeJesus or Logan Shore or somebody like that, I said. But yeah, the innings in September, I don't know. You guys have any ideas? I think we're kind of hoping Joey Wentz will be able to do something.
Yeah.
He could make a handful of starts. I mean, we're probably, 5 or 6 starts. That'd be, help them get through the whole thing. But I think it's Hutchison. It could be Del Pozo. They stretch him out in Toledo. He used to start, didn't he, once upon a time?
In Pittsburgh, I think he did. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. But this way, if there's still 10 games or more under 500 in August, they're going to put whoever still is ambulatory. They're going to throw them out there. And that's fine. They just got to get through the season. They got to protect who they got to protect. You know, we all know who those are. You know, they protect those guys and just get through the year. And they better have the offseason they've been sort of hinting at, where they bring in some talent. And then the proof will be in the pudding. And then hopefully we don't have to worry about this kind of stuff moving forward. But in terms of Mazzara, yeah, he's probably next to go. I mean, but it was a 1-year deal. I never get too bent about 1-year deals. Most of us don't. It was worth a shot. He's hit some home runs in the past, and he was at the right age where he could potentially do something, but he's not, and he looks pretty bad. He's actually a little better defensively than I thought he would be. He catches most stuff out there, but he's not turning on anything. It's kind of sad to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other options to get off the 40-man roster. I mean, some of the pitchers we've talked about, Del Pozo, he could come up and start. He could also get cut for somebody else. Buck Farmer, they already cut him once. I could see him doing it again. Grayson Greiner, if they are really convinced that Rogers and Haas are good enough to run out the string as their catcher, although I don't think anybody else would take Greiner. I guess you never know with catchers, though. Yeah, I mean, they're not out of options. I don't think we'll see them cut someone like Daniel Norris. Even if it may be justifiable at some point. I think they just kind of play out the string with him.
I think it's gonna be a minor league free agent that it's on a roster right now that's gonna be cut here next month. And Ed, thank you for listening. Much appreciated. I think there's somebody out there right now that's on a roster, that's on a AAA roster who the Tigers are maybe been looking at, what have you. And when the draft comes up here shortly, there's going to be a cut or two. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that because if you look eternally right now in AA, you have literally, I mean, I think Wentz will get an opportunity. Don't get me wrong, but he's still working his way back up. They're not going to rush him. So maybe September call up, unless he just catches fire. Even if he catches fire, they'll still think he's got to build himself up.
And he's looking a little bit like Michael Fulmer in year one right now, where he's not really commanding anything. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, so no, that's who I think what's up, Uber?
I'm sorry, I've talked over you. I'm sorry, but I can see Tyler Alexander getting some starts.
Yeah. Something like eternally, like something like that. But there's somebody out there right now. Like I know that the Brewers just cut former Tiger for 30 seconds. Guy was in the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays. Was in their camp last year. Oh my God!
Oh God, is that Godley?
Yeah, Zach Godley was just been cut. So
yeah. No, and I think there'll be cuts like you're saying, and I think after the trade deadline, when some teams improve their roster, they're going to put some guys on waivers, some fringe guys, and I think the Tigers will be there to scoop them up like so much kitty litter.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be on top of that stuff.
It'd be like that year they got Randy Wolf.
Ah, Randy Wolf, yes.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Randy Wolf. That's the name I remember about. Okay, and what's the second question, Chris?
Hey, Randy. Then we got a question from Kay Turret, and this is it kind of goes to what we were talking about with Scope. He said after Avila dumps Jonathan Scope, technically he said after #fire Avila dumps Jonathan Scope for negligible quote prospects, who should replace him at second base, Castro or Castro? And then part two, does Yariel Gonzalez get the call from Toledo to fill Scope's reps at first base? I think ideally, I think they'd like to see Isaac Paredes get more time at second base. I think Willie Castro has proven himself to be not so great defensively on the infield. And they like Harold Castro, but he's in the middle of like a 5 for 60 stretch or something like that right now. If Harold Castro's not hitting, then he's not really good to anybody. And then there's one other player. I don't think we'll see Yariel Gonzalez. I mean, it's possible. But there's one other player down there at AAA Toledo that I think we could see get some time at first base and second base if and when Scope is traded away.
I think it's going to be Cody Clemens.
There you go.
Yeah, Cody Clemens has been playing the outfield too, so I think the Tigers are trying to see what else he can do as a utility player because of the invention is the mother. I don't know how that term goes.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Thank you. Necessity is the mother of invention. So I think that's going to happen with Cody Clemens. I would love to see Yariel Gonzalez. It'd be a cool story and a feel-good story, but I think the Tigers like who they like. But I mean, it would be cool to see Gonzalez. I don't know if you have any suggestions.
I'm kind of on the boring side and the one that people won't like. I just roll with Willie Castro and give him the year, see what he turns into. I mean, I think the handwriting's on the wall. He might not turn into much, but I think if the team is still 10 games plus or under 500, you just roll with him and make a final determination on what you got.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Was there any other questions, Chris? Was that it?
Oh no, that was it. That was yep. That's all
right.
I saw. So I don't know if anybody else happens to be listening right now and has a question. Looks like we've got 3 eyeballs up there at the corner, so I don't know if that's the 3 of us.
No, it's all the people on YouTube and some people listening on YouTube. On Twitter, I didn't expect people to tune in because there's games going on and all that stuff, but you can always find us on YouTube at Tiger Riley Report. And coming out next week, I think we're going to be recorded this weekend. I'm just finishing up the Scott Moore draft. We're going to do a little cool story. It's just us talking about the draft, and we're going to strip right now and do some research on it. So the Scott Moore draft, it's very eerily similar to the draft right now. There's
20 years ago.
20 years ago. So we're going to be talking about that at the 2001 draft and how similar it is now. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's moving parts to it. So we'll definitely drop in that. And then we're also going to, if you want to check out the great piece done by Chris on the 2011 draft, that's over at MotorCityBengals.com. That's also going to be part of a YouTube thing too, as well. It's going to be a multimedia component as well. So next week, and I apologize for not announcing about the draft stuff, but there's some things that are in a kind of a holding pattern at the moment. So we'll have more information about the draft show. The draft show was scheduled. It's still scheduled July 11th. Location to be announced. Ooh. So just wait on some information and all that. So we'll get back to you about that. And also wanted to give a quick tip of the cap to the next host of the Locked On Tigers podcast, Scott Bentley, who will be joining us on the draft show. But tip of the cap to Scott Bentley. He took over this week, and kudos to him. He's been busting his ass, and just want to give him a shout out to him. And he's a good dude. Big fan of Scott. So, but yeah, like I said, we'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have like I said, that announcement that we're all pending on, or again, just waiting on some information. I am Rogelio Castillo, and Simon Chris Brown and Uper. And if you see a guy walking around in a wrestling mask and he's in Tiger colors, punch him. He deserves to be punched. Until then, we'll see you next time.